Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, honestly unexpected shift in the global solar energy market. If you follow renewable infrastructure, you already know the major players. But the timelines we've been operating on are accelerating way faster than anyone expected. We've officially hit a major inflection point where the global solar dominance has shifted in a way very few predicted this early on. Here is the roadmap for our analysis today. We'll be covering the big solar milestone, the global power rankings, growth versus total capacity, India's incredible acceleration, and finally, the road to 2030.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The big solar milestone, a 2025 overtaking.
Let's look right at the core numbers that have been making the headlines. According to the International Renewable Energy Agency, in the year 2025, the United States added a highly respectable 34 gigawatts of new solar capacity. Yes, that is a massive, incredibly significant number for grid infrastructure, no doubt about it. But right next to it, we see India adding 37 gigawatts in that exact same time frame. This isn't some future projection or an optimistic target, you guys. This is the reality right now. By bringing 37 gigawatts online, India officially overtook the US in annual solar capacity additions, securing its spot as the world's second largest growth market. To put that in perspective, 37 gigawatts is roughly equivalent to bringing 36 large-scale nuclear reactors online in a single year. It is a monumental amount of energy generation to integrate into a national grid.
Tracing the 5-year trajectory really reveals how this all played out. Back in 2021, the US was nearly doubling India's output, putting up 19 gigawatts compared to India's 10.3. Fast forward through 2023 and into 2024, and both nations are scaling rapidly. India hits 25.4 gigawatts, while the US surges to a huge peak of 37.7. The US was totally dominating the growth curve. But then, look closely at 2025. The US momentum cools off just slightly to 34 gigawatts, while India literally puts its foot firmly on the gas, jumping to a record 37 gigawatts. The trajectory's finally crossed.
Moving on to Section 2, the global power rankings, where they stand.
Now, what's really interesting here is that we need to zoom out and put this US-India dynamic into a planetary context, which honestly provides a massive reality check. We just spent a few minutes analyzing a super tight race for second place, but the number one spot, it isn't even a competition. While India and the US added 37 and 34 gigawatts respectively, China's operating at an entirely different scale when it comes to infrastructure deployment.
315 gigawatts. That is what China added in 2025 alone. Just take a moment to absorb that figure. It is roughly 8 times what the runner-up managed to build in the exact same 12 months. When we evaluate the global shift in renewable energy, it's absolutely crucial to recognize that China is setting a pace of deployment that the rest of the world is working tirelessly to understand and emulate.
But India's climb to that number 2 growth spot behind China didn't just happen out of nowhere. It represents a highly structured, deliberate ascent up the worldwide leaderboard. Before overtaking the US in annual additions, India had already bypassed another energy giant. In 2024, India's total capacity leapt from 73 gigawatts to over 98 gigawatts. That specific surge pushed them right past Japan, who had just increased their own capacity to nearly 90 gigawatts, allowing India to become the world's third-largest total solar producer at that time. Section 3. Growth versus total capacity. The full picture. When analyzing global power, we definitely must maintain a clear distinction between current growth and historical scale. Looking at the cumulative installed capacity as of 2025, the US still retains a commanding, deeply entrenched lead at 211.6 gigawatts. India, despite its phenomenal growth year, sits at a cumulative 135.5 gigawatts. The US has been steadily building, funding, and integrating its solar infrastructure for a significantly longer period, giving them a massive foundational advantage that 1 or 2 years of record annual additions won't just erase immediately.
So the crucial point is coming up in Section 4, India's incredible acceleration, velocity visualized. To understand exactly why this acceleration is happening, we have to look at the underlying strategy. Pralhad Joshi, India's new and renewable energy minister, makes it clear that this isn't just an accident of the market. He stated, India is driving record capacity additions through strong policy support, innovation, and world-class infrastructure. This means dedicated capital, streamlined grid connection logistics, and domestic manufacturing incentives all working in tandem, rather than relying on market forces alone. It requires a coordinated, top-down strategy, ensuring these massive deployments can actually be built and connected without administrative bottlenecks.
And their execution on that policy is highly aggressive. Look at the financial year 26 data. The government's target was an ambitious 34 gigawatts. Well, they didn't just quietly meet it, they completely shattered it, achieving 44.61 gigawatts. To put the scale of that scale-up in perspective, that is nearly double the previous record of 23.83 gigawatts set just a year prior in financial year 25. They are consistently outpacing their own most optimistic projections.
The most vital takeaway from the data is this compounding speed. It took India decades, literally all the way until 2022, to cross their very first 50-gigawatt milestone. To add the next 50 gigawatts, that took 3 years. But to add the third tranche of 50 gigawatts, pushing them to 154 gigawatts by early 2026, that took just 14 months. From decades to 3 years, down to 14 months. The deployment timeline is shrinking at a breakneck pace as their supply chains become hyper-efficient.
And this brilliantly illustrates Section 5, the road to 2030. What's next?
All of this rapid deployment is pointed toward a very specific, monumental finish line, 500 gigawatts. This is the overarching target India has officially set for its total renewable energy capacity by the year 2030. Now, initially, this number might have sounded like purely aspirational policy, right? But when you look back at that shrinking installation timeline, where they are delivering 50 gigawatts in just 14 months and crushing their annual targets by massive margins, this number stops looking like a pipe dream and starts looking like a highly calculated, rapidly approaching reality.
Which brings us to the ultimate question we have to ask as we conclude this explainer today. If that 50-gigawatt installation cycle shrinks yet again, from 14 months down to 10 or even 8, and if China maintains its astronomical lead, how fundamentally will the map of global energy be redrawn in the next 5 years? With India rapidly closing the total capacity gap through pure velocity, what will the global power landscape truly look like in 2030? It is a fascinating structural shift happening right before our eyes. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep paying close attention to these numbers.